Hello, and welcome to the Sovereign Collective podcast, where we bring you real, raw truth for your self-empowerment. I'm your host, Sasha Calavoda, and I believe that you can stand on your own 2 feet, but that you don't have to do it alone. I love learning from people who continually strive to raise the bar, to go against mainstream thinking, and who dare to question the general consensus. People who risk being ridiculed or even risk the loss of their professional status as they bravely question the common narratives and challenge the rest of us to expand our minds and to reconsider what we think we already know. Join me in learning how to take control of your health and your mind so that you can have the energy to think more clearly and the confidence to step up and take responsibility for all aspects of your life. We promise to never censor here because I believe you are strong enough to hear the real, raw truth to make up your own mind. If you like what you find here at the Sovereign Collective podcast, then please share with your friends and family. I so appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And now, on to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interview of the Sovereign Collective podcast. This is episode 98, and I have a returning guest today. We have the wonderful Beth Martens, who is doing her little piece in this world to make it a little bit better every day through the work that she does. And if you want to know more about her origin story, her growth story, her pain to purpose, look at episode or listen to episode 26, where we get into this story, and we might go into a little bit of that today again as well, but she talks about her experience with cancer and the different things that she tried and how sick she really got, and how an awareness in her life is really what brought her from dying to living literally pretty much overnight. And she just knew it, just like that. Wasn't the treatments, wasn't the herbs, wasn't the anything. It was a realization about herself and how she was being in this world. So it's a pretty fascinating story because it got to be pretty intense from what I remember around that story. And here she is many years later, flourishing, helping people. She's an author. She wrote the book, Journey, a Map of Archetypes to Find Lost Purpose in a Sea of Meaninglessness. There's a lot of that going on these days, where we seem to be trying to find meaning in all this meaninglessness. So it's a good word. She has a podcast called the King Hero's Journey. Really great podcast as well, with great guests on there. And she's also a coach, and she offers programs. So you can check out all her offerings at bethmartens.com. I don't know if she's got something opening up soon or not. We'll talk about that. But today we're going to get into the inner work. And I think more than ever, it's always an important thing to do, right? It's really important. If we would just do the inner work, all of us, man, what a totally different world this would be. We wouldn't be depending on the good opinion of others to get through our days. We would just know who we are and, understand, create our opinions from our lived experience rather than what, somebody on some box is telling us. And so I think that's a really important topic, and I look forward to hearing from you, Beth. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here, and a great synopsis of our first interview. And even there are some deeper things that I've realized about my recovery in particular from cancer, that I didn't know last time we talked.
Oh, excellent. Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to expand on that before we get into other stuff, or you tell me?
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, that it, wasn't the herbs, it wasn't the this and the that caused that turnaround. It really, truly was the inner work. Because the thing that I know now, based on a year's studying in a particular arena, is that everything I was doing mostly was wrong. Right? Now, it's obvious to see that chemotherapy is wrong. It's just outright poisoning you, making you infertile, which I amazingly had a baby anyway after many treatments with chemo. I also had done all of the natural health medicine kind of stuff, and most of that was working against me, as it turns out. So this has been a big subject for the last year, learning that natural health medicine is equally, if not even more, weaponized against the people.
Okay.
And this is very unpopular, because if you hadn't noticed, especially say in the freedom movement, that whole natural health thing has exploded.
Yes.
And many people are leaning on it to make their living. They sell a supplement, they actually, my natural food group is selling ivermectin. right? Like all of those kind of things, like snakes have made their way into our world. And people don't realize that the whole arena of vitamins and herbs and all of that kind of thing was actually invented by the Rockefellers too. So it's not just conventional medicine and pharmaceuticals and all of that kind of thing that was invented by the Rockefellers. They're like the red team and the blue team. So,
Right.
right? So they know that if you vote one side, they win, and if you vote the other side, they win. So both systems of medicine and health are meant to harm you, to make.
Can I just ask and interject here? Would you say though, there could be different versions, like you have synthetic vitamins, you have vitamins that are created from coal tar, but you also have alpha Vedic products, right? There's a whole realm of options out there. And you can speak to this as well, is like the ivermectin thing. I listened to your podcast on that actually, and I never got on that train. It's pharma. I don't care, not doing it. But I think a lot of people also don't think they're doing harm. They think it's the right thing. They're not. They just got on that because they think they want to help people, right? But other people know. So I just wanted to interject there and have your thoughts on that part as well.
And that's why it's so dangerous, Sasha, because you think you're doing good for yourself. So I'll address that first, that with all due respect and love to Alpha Vedic, those guys, and a lot of those guys in that world, they don't want to look at basic chemistry and how, if you give someone vitamin A from a food to look at it under, I mean, a microscope, I don't think really helps you in this department. And I'm out of my realm when it comes to like really deep chemistry and biochemistry and that kind of stuff. And you give it to them from a synthetic source, they won't be able to tell the difference. And your body doesn't know the difference. So yes, synthetics, who knows what processing they're going through, who knows what additives are going to end up in there compared to your food. But generally, and vitamin A is a good example. It is considered to be a fat-soluble vitamin. It's actually, in reality, a fat-soluble toxin. And this is proven in the medical literature, which I've learned to at least be able to look at and somewhat interpret with the help of Garrett Smith, a naturopathic doctor that I've been working with the last year. So this is a fallacy. It's an appeal to nature fallacy, that if it's natural, it's healthy. And what we don't realize is that nature created a great deal of toxins mostly because of plant warfare. So the plant just sits there, it doesn't have teeth, and it doesn't have legs to kick and can't bite. So it creates poison that it could live its full life and reproduce, which is, you could say, like the biological imperative of every single organism. And so, I used to be vegetarian. It's one of the reasons the vegetarians tend over time not to do well. They might have good effects at the short term because they're taking in less poisons in other ways. But the plant world is like, it's stupid. I used to just, eat raw out of my garden every day, just chomping down, especially green leafy foods. Yeah. And so they're full of toxins. And I had a complete breakdown 3 years ago of my digestive system, which showed me like, oh, something's not right here. And it pushed me to continue to learn and go past all of the so-called knowledge that I had gathered around natural medicine. And I saw like, it's not working. I got to this point of my life and yeah, I survived cancer, but that's now what I'll say, not that I healed from cancer, I survived it against the odds using the inner work. Thank God for that. But knowing what I know now, there's it's a completely different paradigm of thinking. It's very deep. We don't have to go deep into it, but I can point you towards other resources. I have interviewed Dr. Garrett Smith 3 times. I've been on his podcast now telling my whole story about how poisoned I was by the time I got cancer. And then unfortunately, thanks to natural medicine, I continued to poison myself for 25 years. So it wasn't until last year that I woke up and started to really gain traction with my health.
So, okay, another question, right? Because I've seen you allude to Garrett Smith. I haven't looked into the work, but there's also the Weston Price Wave Aid. I used to be a vegetarian as well for over 20 years. Not
Right.
at all anymore, any way, shape, or form. You're kidding me? I don't know what to do if I don't have my animal products in my life every day. That being said, I also like eating liver. Liver is a great source of vitamin A, but A, D, K. And so I've interviewed Morley Robbins on this podcast 5 times. He's the big copper guy. And a big part of getting copper bioavailable is liver, and not. So we maybe won't get into all the things like this, but it's an interesting thing because there's a traditional way of eating. For example, when people used to eat the whole animal, and they would be getting lots of fat soluble vitamins in their diet.
Right, right. So I don't mind speaking to that a little bit. So that's another logical fallacy you could call appeal to tradition. So our ancestors did it, therefore it's healthy. Now, first of all, our ancestors were often compromised, and in famine situations, they'll eat anything. Starvation is a worse option than being poisoned, because our bodies are experts at dying slowly. And so Weston A. Price, I just shake my head about those guys. First of all, go to any Weston A. Price event and tell me if the people look healthy. They don't.
Well, nobody looks healthy anywhere these days. I swear to God. It doesn't matter where you go. The health food store, the regular store, Costco, they all look like not healthy.
Yeah, the health food store especially. I know it's a bunch of sick
everywhere.
People. Yeah, and it's testament to this. So the liver, like you don't necessarily have to take this advice, but the liver is the most poisonous part of the animal to eat. There's again the fallacy that the liver is not a filter that stores. There is tons of evidence, endless amounts of evidence to show that the liver stores toxicity. Yes, it processes toxicity, but what it can't process, it holds on to in layers over time. So young people can get away with it much more so than people who are aging, for example. My 5+ decades now have added up. And that's why, I went through that breakdown that didn't happen when I was younger. I was only 29 when I had cancer, so that's probably why I survived. I didn't have the massive accumulation of toxicity. So liver is the last thing that you want to eat. Vitamin A, again, the medical literature can prove various forms of vitamin A turn into retinol. It is an alcohol poison for your body. That's why they tell pregnant women, don't take vitamin A, because it causes birth defects. Vitamin D is rat poison. They sold that to us in the COVID scam that, now you're going to need a lot of vitamin D if you're not going to go for poison injections. And the vitamin D is a proven rat poison. You can search in your engine or your AI and type in cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D. It's identical with rat poison. And they found a way to sell that as a supplement. Vitamin K is one of the, there is a good version of it, K2 only. Now, copper, this is the big natural health freedom movement scam of the universe. Copper is a heavy metal. It should not be ingested. I am very aware of my copper toxicity when you start to see the kind of signs that it produces. And I regret all of the copper I took in, mostly through green leafy vegetables, but it shows up, like you said, in the liver and animal products. The Weston A. Price, we have this whole raw milk fad. When I first heard about raw milk, I'm like, raw milk. It became this kind of rebel. We win, because raw milk is illegal here. You actually can't legally sell and consume. I don't know what they're going to do if you consume it. But it is extremely high in vitamin A, also very high in calcium, which is a necessary electrolyte. But at that volume, you are entering into, and with the cooperation of vitamin D, going into hypercalcemia. And that's why people end up with kidney stones and gallstones, and can be tumors, that is calcification of tissues. and storage of that. Your body desperately is trying to break down that calcium to remove it from the body. It ends up causing a deficiency in magnesium, which is a kind of epidemic deficiency in humanity. And so, yeah, don't eat copper. Don't drink out of copper. It is the reason they put a copper IUD in a woman's uterus so you're not fertile is because it's poisonous. That's why you get infertile. So never ingest that. And I know there's a lot of copper champions out there saying, put it in your garden, put it in your water, put it in your everything. They have gone out of their way to surround us with copper. Our pipes are all copper, right?
Well,
So the water.
They used to be, not anymore. Our pipes are plastic, mostly.
A lot of them have gone to PVC, but our pipes are all copper. As long as they don't fail, they stay copper. So, yeah, it's a deadly thing. There's the Western A Price. They're not a healthy bunch. They're not people to listen to for health advice. That's just my discovery. I was
So
there.
for people watching this is going to be going totally against other things. This is why it's good to have other people to discuss and get into the conversations. We need to have conversations, and we need to have people discussing together on these same platforms as well to, have these debates and have different points addressed, because everybody gets on their one line of thinking and think that's the end all be all. So for the listeners who have been listening already, this is obviously very different information than that has been shared in the past. So interesting.
Exactly. I know it brings up the most possible cognitive dissonance, because that's, we get into a comfortable place where when I say was going, trying to avoid going through conventional treatments, I had gone Western medicine bad, alternative natural medicine good. I had these two categories. And so it's very comfortable to have an enemy over there and think that you're in the good camp. But if you start to pull it apart, and if you raise your standard of research, this is the thing, we all think we're researchers, but it's like, oh no, well, I just cultivate, elevate, say copper's good, therefore copper's good. That's the depth of our research. But if you, and I'm not saying this to you in particular, it was more me, allowing myself to grow up to the next level and actually look and see what is the research, and how to interpret the research is also a bit of an Achilles heel, because, so you might find in PubMed, you might find an article that starts out looking like copper is a necessary nutrient. But if you go and you really dig into it, they will find ways to tell you that it's a toxin, but still leave you with the impression, because of a headline, that it's a nutrient. So it's not that easy. It is for people with very strong nervous systems who are able to continue to grow, not grow to a point and stop where it's comfortable. Yeah. By going this direction, I turned myself, I was already an outlier. We all are in some ways in this world. But now I am an outlier among outliers. And this goes back to my work, is that I love the truth more.
Well, that's the thing. And that's where the inner work comes in, because you're not trying to belong. Like for me, I love having my mind changed. If I think I know something and then something else comes along that makes more sense and it's true, or from what I can tell, I love dropping the old belief and moving on, because I just want to know what's true. That's what I want to know. So it makes sense. So yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. So, okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's such a great quality. I share that I love having my mind changed, although it can make life extremely inconvenient all of a sudden, and turn things upside down, and challenge relationships and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I will not regret being loyal to the truth. I know that in my soul of souls.
Right.
And I know that the truth and freedom are the same thing. If you have to give words to what is actually indescribable, that there is freedom in truth. And I want to live long. My son is 18, and maybe he's going to have grandchildren, and I'll have the great fortune of seeing this lineage live on. And I want to be healthy, and I want to be active, and I want to be alive for that to happen. I want to be alive right now for whatever is right in front of me.
Right.
So, and I'm very fortunate. I never did go into health coaching. I could have, right? I survived a stage 4 lymphoma. That might have given me some credentials. But I could not, with confidence, say anything for sure. I know I got through it. But if you came to me and say, now I could be of a much greater assistance on that subject. But so I never married myself to any system of health or to any supplements or to anything. And so I didn't have to come and say, oh, I was wrong. And yet I will do that anyway. When I was a feminist and I saw through that, that's when the King Hero's Journey was born. And then I said to everybody, like, hey, I totally messed up. I saw this absolutely upside down. And did I pay the price for that? Yeah, a lot of people filtered out of my world and like, oh, what's wrong with Beth? And I thought you were spiritual and all this kind of stuff would happen. Apologies for that noise. And so, I would personally, and that's something that I hear from people that listen to my podcast, for example, that they appreciate watching me grow in public. And when I have been wrong about something, that I just say that. I interviewed, for example, more than 100 characters in the alternative law world. And now I know that's a bunch of garbage. Okay?
There's a lot of garbage there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then in the House of Free Will, we're making it a sport to debunk that. I finally found somebody who took the time and the energy when he discovered all of that stuff didn't actually work in the real world in courts. He went and he educated himself from the ground up. And he's a great resource to us in Canada in particular, because he can show how all of that stuff is garbage and show the receipts for it in the historical literature and why it doesn't work, right? So we just again go, oh, I heard some guru say this. It makes sense. It must be true. I want it to be true.
You kind of have to go through different stages, because when you understand the system is not what we've been as the impression that we've gotten from it, it's like you have to go through stages of like, I'm going to screw them and I own this, and you get comments like you get, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like you deserve certain things and you're going to just screw the man, and then you go through different stages of that. This man you're talking about, is this a name you're willing to share? Is that something that you keep private?
It is private, unfortunately, at this stage.
That's okay.
Yeah. But members of the House of Free Will can take part in that. We have an event coming up Monday. I'm not sure what your schedule is for putting the podcast out, but I record pretty much every workshop or event, or this is a roundtable in law, I call them. And so it's available there for anyone who wants to apply to be a member. I have an application just to make sure we're more or less the same kind of people.
Right. Fair, as you should.
Never identical. In the early days of the House of Free Will, there was a lot of conflict, and that wasn't for lack of vetting on my part, but it was, I don't know, a lot of crazy people, and you throw some religion in there, and it ended up being really messy. So I go out of my way to make sure, and I have great pride in that when we have discussions, which we do weekly, they are amicable. And people can have vastly different opinions on something, but it never turns into insults or rejection or bad feelings. It just is a discussion. And then is there something to learn? So I've got learners, people who actually want to take in some new information rather than just get into their pride and defend a position. Mm-hmm. So I pride myself. You don't see that a whole lot out there. Right. But that's what we're doing. Yeah.
House of Free Will. So if somebody wants to look into that, they can go to your website and they would find it on there. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. On the homepage, you'll see an application.
Okay.
But for that, yeah, it's very small and quaint, and it's just part of my mission to continue educating and creating a space where people can connect because that's the most important thing of all, that, and it doesn't matter how great your knowledge is, if you don't have connection and community, then it gets pretty bleak and, could be near impossible at some point. So yeah, that's the point of all of that.
Right.
But I agree on your stages of awakening, and it's archetypal, right? So the first stage of awakening could be look like not awakening, the child in denial and just wanting to trust some authority, trust the parent, the doctor, the politician, whoever that is, and they don't allow themselves to see the wrongs that are right in front of them. And when you grow up out of that denial and you decide you definitely are going to allow yourself to see, the first thing that happens is you get mad.
Yes.
Right? It's exactly, you get up in arms. That's the rebel archetype. And they expected both. They expected they put the stickers on the floors and they turned us all into children, wagging the finger, go home, stay home, like this. And then there were those of us that weren't going to do that for more than 5 minutes. And we rose up into the rebel and we started railing against the machine. Well, they were ready for us with that, right? They knew how to let us protest, but not let it actually any change happen. Mm-hmm. And that's the rebel. The rebel without a cause isn't actually seeking change. They're just railing. They're just emoting. They're trying to show power through emotion. There's no power in emotion. That's fake. And so the next step could be the warrior, where you hunker down and you say, okay, what do we need to build? Including strength and endurance and, infrastructure, whatever it is that will sustain this for the long term. And what battles are worth fighting and which ones should I leave? Because that's a waste of energy and time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the journey, as you know, goes on. We talked about it in the full scale of it last time, but yeah, that stages of awakening, they're scripted almost because of the archetypes and the patterns inside them.
Fascinating. So so I see people just learning about this, and you see where they're at, and like, okay, just remember the energy that you're bringing to this is the energy you're going to get back to it and get back. And so it's a fascinating journey because you learn in the end that a lot of it is a bunch of bunk. But other than the law stuff and probably anything that you're learning and waking up to in this world, but now your inner work, like, let's get back to the idea of this inner work and where's your stance and all that? How do you see that happening for people? And there's some gaps there. There's some gaps because I think we're really celebrating and encouraging weakness in our society these days. We are encouraging weakness in terms of requiring ourselves to acknowledge everybody else, to make them worthy in this world, to validate every little whim. And for me, that is just completely weak. So let's talk inner work. And from your viewpoint, what needs to happen here, or what do you see would be beneficial, and what does that look like?
Right. So the reason I focus on people that are a little higher up the scale, could be rebels or higher, so to speak, is because our culture at large, if you can even call it a culture in Canada anymore, it's so decayed. Who knows, maybe it was never there, it was just all fake. But the celebration of weakness is the lowest rung, right? That's the lowest of the low. It's the victim archetype. And it wants us to, as you said, acknowledge and validate the weakness. And it creates a fake power. It's not real power. I just saw a video of a trans guy beating up a guy that was just being calm, and he went from getting screamed at to having the whole crowd chanting obscenities at him, and he was still holding his center. He was just like, no, I'm not moving to violence. But then next thing you know, the trans guy winds up and starts beating on him, right? Like this is the net result of celebrating weakness, that you turn these characters into having the ego and the self-impression, self-concept of being powerful. But the power is built on weakness. So it has zero foundation. It's not real. It's embarrassing to see this in our own country, to say the least. And so where does the real power lie? Like I did an entire course called Primal Power, which was exclusively to teach the truth community, where will you find your power? What, if railing against the machine only feels powerful and then you burn out or you get in trouble or you have all this unnecessary conflict in your life, what is that true power that is, has a very strong foundation, can be relied upon? People read it, people feel it. It changes the dynamics without you having to act out or say anything. When you're truly a warrior and you've trained and you've got your feet on the ground and you're grounded and you're prepared for a fight, though you're not looking for a fight, chances are no one's going to pick a fight with you.
Right.
It's like, oh, that guy's got it going on. I'll go pick on somebody weak because that's going to be more successful.
Of course.
So the inner work is the way of exposing all of these inner lies that we carry. Right? We're really focused on the outer lies, how the controllers lie to us every day, and that's the truth. They turn everything inside out. Every good concept that we speak about, they bring forward as propaganda, but all mangled and upside down. So the inner work allows you to see through the illusions of that. And so, yeah, you hear words and you have thoughts about words and you have feelings about, say, the propaganda or the actions, and then you investigate. Are these authentic? Meaning, are they truly sourced in myself, in the depths of the meaning of life, the true meaning of life, or are they, in fact, part of the meaninglessness that is that programmed disease of humanity, if you want to call it a disease, which I often don't do, but it's like that anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you gain discrimination. And in the process of gaining discrimination, it sets up the opportunity for making new choices based on reality, right? I didn't want to know that vitamin A and D and B and C and all of those vitamins are actually slowing and harming our detox systems. I didn't want to know that because it changed everything for me. It made my life stupid. I had to detox emotionally and mentally, all my attachment to the addiction to poison, which is we have strange addiction to poison. It's a weird relationship. We want more of what's hurting us, and so that's how I got through that part. Was doing the emotional, mental, spiritual inner work, making new decisions, letting programs go that didn't serve me. Right, so I might have just as well rejected what Garrett teaches because of all of those inconveniences. But because I saw the programming at the root of it, and I was able to take it out, seeing that it holds no validity, right? People want to be validated for their programming. Well, the programming has no validity. It's yelling at you on the sidelines saying, nobody loves you. You mentioned this earlier, how people are walking around all day long trying to get the love and approval of others. Or maybe they're smart enough to not need it from other people, but they need it from themselves. Or maybe they're smart enough to not need it from themselves, but they need it from the Creator or from God.
Mm.
Or maybe they're smart enough about all of that, but they disapprove of others. That's the same program withholding your love and approval. Like how many people teach their children by withholding love. I'll be loving when you do the right things, and I'll not be loving, I'll withhold love when you do the wrongs. And so there's many traps and many variations on the traps, but because our source is pure seeing, right? This is one of the names in God in Sanskrit, this Upadrashta, this great seer. I've been studying a little Sanskrit again. It's a flash from my past. I studied in India a lot. I recorded 4 CDs with a ton of Sanskrit material in there. I'm doing some videos for the House of Free Will on my own songs and breaking them down. So this Upadrashta, the drishti is the seer, and then this Upa being the great seer. We have that. It's identical with us, right? It's not somewhere outside that you need to go looking for it, but because it's covered in layers and layers and layers of programming from a lifetime, but maybe even lifetimes, then it can seem like it's not there. So this is my mission, and I don't think everybody needs to do this. Not everybody is ready for this. But if enough people will do it, that is going to raise the standard of seeing in general. And so the inner work not only has the impact on your own life, helping you get through challenges and meet goals and do something good in the world, and I wanted to talk about vision, but it also polarizes the people around you. So those that are learning with you or in your family or close to you and friends or whatever kind of relationships, it will cause them to choose to either come in and lean in and get closer to you so that they could have more of what it is that you're getting called freedom, or they will pull themselves away. Right? So that's one of the reasons also that it is risky to do the inner work, because it's going to make people around you decide. So
And
I often
also
say,
attracting a different quality of person, though, in the future as well, right? So
totally, you got it, exactly. So we want that polarity. People are frightened of it because it's going to change things.
Right.
But if you've got enough rebel blood where you can get excited about some positive change, then that's the whole thing, right? If you take the risk for yourself, it gives opportunity for other people to take the risk and see themselves in you. Like, yeah, I was stuck like she was, and what is she doing, or what are they doing, or maybe I could have freedom too, even though it doesn't feel like it.
yeah.
So yeah, and this is what I like say, if there's anything new in my world now, in a way nothing's new, but what I'm focused on these days is particularly on visioning, because over the past going on 6 years now, that's to me been the biggest casualty of all of this, is that we get into troubleshooting mode. And we're just always accepting the next psyop that, oh, we have to look at that or study that or decide if it's real or fake or what's real and what's fake. And it consumes our attention. You know, they've made a lot of problems for us, especially in Canada, I have to say, given that you're here in Canada as well. You spend all day long troubleshooting that. It's endless. I could go into a lot of detail about that, or maybe we could talk about Canada in particular.
Sure.
But the vision is the casualty, where you don't sit and, like a child would, ask yourself, wouldn't it be nice if?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. The wonder, right? The wonder and the possibility and the miracle of life and the mystery, all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's the new moon today as we're recording. In fact, that is the time that is really perfect for visioning and seed planting and letting your imagination go. And you can use it as not so much a tool. Visioning is more of a result. So there's a lot of things in the spiritual world that people teach as techniques that I see as the result of the inner work rather than the tool itself. And so when you see, okay, can I sit and for more than, say, 20 seconds, hold this thought, wouldn't it be nice if, and only think about the things that I want? See if you could do it or not. It's, when you're in a place of running a lot of programs, it's near impossible, or it would only be an act of will and powering over the programs, which is not sustainable. That doesn't last. But as you deprogram and let the layers of those root programs go, it lightens the system up, and the vision, which is naturally there, right? This is, we don't need to create a vision. The visioning power is already there. Upadrashta, to just keep saying that name of the creator, just because I've been focused on that in the last few days. So that's the mistake often that this spiritual people make, is like, oh, well, you need to add this quality. In this case, we're talking vision. You need to add that. That's lacking. Add that to the mix, and then something better will happen. So to me, it's all a process of elimination. Take away enough of what's not authentically you, which are the programs driven by fear, and the vision naturally rises.
Yeah.
And the ability to vision and hold what you want in mind rises. I have had to put this to the test many times in my life. Right? Every time I fall down, that can be of my own doing. It can be, that life happens. This isn't, by the way, a promise that nothing wrong will ever happen in your life. People die, things change. We have, many elements in our world that are unstable. So it's not going to stop life from happening, but it is going to be a way that you can maintain control. People don't like hearing that either. They don't want to hear that they can maintain control, but it's without having to suppress or wrestle with that, whatever argues with your natural in controlness.
So I have a question. So one thing that I want to know when it comes coming back to truth is I just want to know how this realm, this world, whatever it is, I don't claim to know anything, but I just want to know how it works to be here who I truly came to be, who I am. So do you have any, I just want to know the mechanisms. So do you have any tips for people that are like, well, yeah, but people always, we seem to default to the negative. Right? When something's negative, people tend to naturally default to the negative. So are there some mechanisms that you can share, or tips or tools for people to work with that vision?
Yeah, so here's a few simple tips that I will teach at the beginning of working with anyone, whether it's in a course or in coaching. The number one is that desires are a drain of energy, with one exception. So this is the tip. Can you guess the thing that you could want with no drain of energy?
Truth.
Yep, bang on, right? If truth and freedom are the same, which they are to me,
Yeah.
right? So we forget to do this. And this is a muscle. It's kind of like the wouldn't it be nice if. And so you can strengthen that. So, just as going through your life, say you run into some kind of trouble, maybe you're out and about and you can't get your needs met for one reason or another. That's fairly common in Canada. And then you can stop yourself and say, what am I wanting more than freedom right now? What am I wanting more than the truth right now? Oh, well, I want to just get my errand and get home so I can meet my obligations. Well, could you flip that? Could you want freedom even more than you want to get your needs met and meet your obligations? And then the context changes, and you keep reminding yourself, oh, this whole entire incarnation is about freedom, right? And we live in this freedom movement, but it's not the real freedom. It's freedom from tyranny. It's freedom from slavery, freedom from poisons, freedom from, right? That's not real freedom. That's just relief. And that's good. I mean, I hope for that too. But when it comes to the real deal, freedom, it stands alone. And it is the thing that you can give all of your time and attention to, wanting the freedom. When the want for freedom becomes very powerful, it's like a vacuum, and not a bad one. It pulls, it draws into you experiences that will teach you freedom or give you an opportunity to find freedom. It attracts potentially better relationships, but it can also attract the bad relationships to show you what freedom isn't. And what freedom doesn't depend on, because we always often might have the thought that if, say, my husband who does some wrong things would change, then I'll be free.
Right.
And this is not the truth of it, right? So it's a path of radical self-responsibility where whatever is happening in your world, you can, it doesn't mean this is true. It means this works, that you can treat it, that you're doing it. So if your husband has a problem that appears to be his problem, and it can be very, very true that he has a problem. So I'm not trying to, pull the wool over anybody's eyes or make you think that would be the child in denial to pretend that's not there. You can see. Mm-hmm. But if you find the part in yourself that cooperates with that, or that has feelings about that, or that, rails against it in some way and runs programs about it, then those are the parts that you can profoundly, first of all, release and then change the situation. Sometimes that person will change and heal as a result, or at least to a degree of your own inner work and assuming responsibility. You don't need to say anything to them. It's better if you don't.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm healing for you. That's just
right.
pride.
That's
just pride, right? Yeah. So I've put this to the test many times in my life where situations were unworkable, people were unreasonable. I couldn't, I had a profound healing with my son this way that maybe I talked about on your last podcast. I can't remember.
I don't think you did. Could you mention that? I'd show us an example. How you've put the test and was successful.
Yeah, exactly. So my son and I were often warring. He was a little rebel. He was, his first word was no, so was mine. And is that true? No, I mean, it just, the sentiment, my first word was no, but he had the no mentality, right? So anything that I wanted to do to him, to care for him, do for him, to care for him, it was just all met with massive resistance. And the dad wouldn't support me. So then I was on my own, and my son could always just take refuge where he had no rules and no boundaries. And so at age 11, he moved out to his dad's, literally packed his bag. And it was like, holy crap, I just lost my son. And so because it was impossible to appeal to the dad, I couldn't convince him in any way that he needed to, support me with in creating boundaries. And I couldn't appeal to the 11-year-old who had no sense of any kind, though I loved him, of course. Then I resorted to only doing the inner work, and with a vengeance, because it was so important to me, of course, with my own son. And so that took all the pressure off. The first really amazing thing, it took the pressure off my son and it took the pressure off his dad. So I no longer had those enemies to deal with. And I found the inner enemies, the parts of myself that I didn't see, that were cooperating in a way that wasn't of any advantage to me or my son or his dad. And I started to, you could say, rise. Now, I might have to talk about frequency after that. It's not about rising. That's just part of the technique. And in the process, the net result of me, first of all, I became a happier person, much happier. And I became a happier mother, even though things were less than ideal and I was separated from my son. And then next thing you know, the miracle, my son, he started to lean into me. He wanted to spend time with me. He started to listen to me and take my advice and follow me. So in 2020, was it 2021 when the jabs showed up?
Right.
And here in Manitoba, a 12-year-old could go and get a jab, and he was just that age. And the dad was all pro-jab. And so we come up against each other. We were fine until then, thanks pandemic. And then so this, this clashing, and luckily my son's dad said, well, he's 12, it's his choice, he can decide. And I'm like, perfect, perfect. And then, so that's because by that time, my son was listening to me. And so he said, Mom, I don't know if I should get this job. I'm like, absolutely not. Let me teach you a little bit about what is going on here, why this would be of extreme harm to you. So to this day, he remains completely unvaccinated. I hope that doesn't kill your podcast to say that word.
Yeah, well, it's been pulled before. We're on BitChute as well, but yeah, we'll try not to.
Okay. Okay.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I won't say it anymore. Sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I usually don't. Yeah, so unjabbed, unmedicated, like literally has never been on a medication. He was prescribed one time, but he wouldn't take it. And so yeah, he's a good experiment to see that getting to 18 years old, that he has developed this sense of himself, a kind of confidence, very needless, very resourceful, doing his life, getting things he needs. He just got his first full-time job, which I thought maybe was never going to happen, but he just dove in and, getting up early and doing really hard work and working all day and showing up. And then he got a full-time girlfriend, which he picked a needle out of the haystack of all of the young women these days. It's a pretty big mess out there. Yeah. And he found a really good one. So I'm just seeing the results of this over the time, that it was so incredibly worth it. The relationship between him and I is golden. Aww. It's absolutely, yeah, it's really beautiful and trusted and close and enjoyable. We have so much fun now. So that's my story about when something is unworkable and it looks like a disaster that can't be fixed, then doing the inner work can change everything. It's not a guarantee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Mm-hmm. Good point.
It's not a guarantee because of free will.
Right.
And so my son had to come to me out of his free will. And because of that polarization we were talking about, he could have actually separated further from me because of the inner work. Right? And I never want to mislead people that, oh, you're going to get everything you want. Everything's going to go your way. It's all going to be perfect. Life isn't like that. That's not true freedom. That's just using spiritual means to get what you want.
And I guess it builds an expectation, and there's a power in releasing the end result. Would you say?
Yeah, beautiful. Exactly. That goes right back to the Bhagavad Gita study about exactly that principle, that, take action, but don't be attached to the results of the action.
Right. Right. You speak very similarly to my husband, who also coaches, because I know you do work with the work of Lester Levinson. You talk about radical self-responsibility. It's that freedom from concept, because what he works with people is the freedom from, but then it's like that freedom to, when you've released that freedom from, right? It's the freedom to whatever it is that you want to be in this world. So, and it's so powerful because it's what can you control but yourself and what you do. Right. And therein creates that freedom. So there's so much dependence on outside of us. And
exactly.
It's just people don't want to do the work, but the work, I don't know what can be more rewarding than going through and doing your inner work and realizing the next version of yourself, which really never stops, because you're always going to come up against something or faced with some challenge, especially in this crazy world, in this country that we live in. Beth is coming to us from Manitoba, just so you know. I'm in Alberta, she's in Manitoba, and we've seen radical changes in this country in the last several years. So this is when the rubber hits the road, right? Because it's so easy to do this work when it's all fine and dandy and everything's good and we're all thriving in whatever ways. But when we're not, doing the work is where it's at, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Say you mentioned Lester Levinson, and he was the one that I learned from, not while he was alive, but through his own teachers and stuff like that, ideally the work is constant. So if things are going well and you're expressing authentically through a vision and you're creating and there's a certain level of thriving going on, that the life force is increasing, that's real, that definitely happens. That's an even better time to do the work than when things aren't going well. And this is the unfortunate part, is the tendency is that we're not motivated. When everything's going well, we feel good, then what's the work to do? We don't have any problems.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but that's when it's easiest to go and get the lurking stuff, things that are just in seed form, that until they have some circumstances, they're not really going to bloom. I was just helping a client who's a young mom. Her son is not quite 1 year old, and it's of course dramatically changed her life to have a baby, right? Like she used to be someone who could do whatever she wants whenever she wanted it, and now she's in this routine, and it's like not, doesn't feel like that's a good place to be. And so it's brought up the seeds. And I remember this myself as a young mom. I never saw myself as having like anger issues, for example, that I would get mad. And I have a souvenir in my bathroom when I lost my SHIT one day, and I threw, like something, not at anyone, but I needed to throw something, and then I broke the light switch. I broke the ceramic on the light switch. So it's a souvenir of this, temper. I never had a temper. I could always control it. But as soon as life was so chaotic, having, a young child and being a single parent, though not the only parent, then, life, every single day seemed impossible, that I couldn't meet the goal. I couldn't meet my needs. I couldn't meet his needs as fully as I would have liked to. And then so it brought up this part of myself that I hadn't seen before. And that's ultimately good. That's why I would encourage people to, here's another tip, is to allow yourself to live and take risks so that your shit does come up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's one of my roles as a business coach, that people come to me. It's not all of the work that I do, but if some people, they get stuck in a job that means nothing to them, and they just do it for the money, and they hate their work, or they hate their boss, or they hate the people they're working with. Like I was there in the corporate world where I didn't mind the work at all. That kind of kept me there, but I didn't like the environment, the corporate faceless, nameless, cold things. So people come to me and they're desperately unhappy, and they want to get out of that. So they want to build a business. And so then I always tell them that, yes, the goal of working with me is going to be to build out a service that's in alignment with who you are. Mm-hmm. But the real goal is freedom. Because
sorry, there's somebody knocking, which never
okay.
happened. Hold on.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry.
Okay.
Renovations?
No.
You could be there on the scope.
I have no idea. No, and I'm recording something, so sorry. No. Oh, sorry, I'll cut that out. I shouldn't have answered that, but anyways, I'm looking for somebody. Okay, sorry. Continue. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, so I was just mentioning about when people are looking for business coaching to create a service, then I remind them that the real goal of getting out of the comfort zone, quitting the job, going into high create mode to build and vision and stretch out of that comfort zone, the real goal is freedom, because as you do it, every single step that you take is going to bring something up in you that likely says, you can't do it, you're not good enough, it must be perfect before you ever bring it out to the world, I'm not enough, or I'm too good, or all of the expressions of the programs that have these stories and these, we call them beliefs, but they're programs at the roots. And so if you never do anything outside of your comfort zone, you're never going to bring the programs up. They will lay dormant, and it can seem like they're not there, but they consume energy. So you'll still see the signs. So, here's something, is that I would rather make my own problems than wait for life to make problems for me, and it will. Right? So I make my own trouble, usually by creating something. So I make problems. Every creative inspiration, it comes along with a whole set of not just steps to go through to do something, like 60, 80,000 steps for everything that I want to create, it seems. But never mind like the things that don't go well. and that the problems and the things that get broken, or the things that didn't turn out like you expected, or they're not received like you expected, back to letting go of the outcomes and letting life teach you. But to me, it's always this dance between the action and the inner work. So, if we suffer anything, and what will be the death, I think, of our country, but maybe humanity as a whole, is this inability to hold a vision and to create in our own vision, right? Something that would support life. And that's why I'm super passionate. And I personally have used the latest hardships that I faced that left me pretty flattened. Like I'll just share a bit of detail that I ended up with injuries to my hands. So I lost use of my right hand. It turns out this is a very important hand.
Yeah.
That you use it. I use it for a lot. Took it for granted. It's never happened to me where I've lost use of my hand. So while I'm protecting this hand, I nearly cut this finger off, my left hand. And so then I'm down two hands. And then I am, just sort of barely starting to heal a little bit, getting some use back, and I throw my back out. Well, then I'm thinking, wow, I'm grateful that Canada will let me made out. Like I literally went that low for a few minutes. Yeah. It was just like, yeah, because it threatened my independence, that if I can't take care of myself, then I'm not going to become a ward of the state, and what's going to happen here. So this is, and it's been a real, I don't know, I don't use this word very much, but like kind of dark night. It just flattened me. It put an end to a lot of the things that I was doing and planning. And I managed to keep up. This is one of my philosophies in life, that if life gets you down, never quit. Just go slow. And so that's exactly what I did for some months.
And when was this? This was recent?
Yeah, so it was August 12th, I cut my finger. So it was, I think, a month before that I did a number on this hand. And so, yeah, it's been since the summer. Oh, wow. And just coming out of it. And so, I spent a lot of time while I was just going slow. I never did quit. And I think that's a very powerful thing. There's something about it where you just keep your hand in things. Like I did meetings with the House of Free Will. I can just do them on a podcast setting like this. I didn't have to type. I'm still a three finger typer right now, which is sad because I was a very fast typer. But I'm praying to God. I'm like, okay, well, what's next? Is this, because every ending implies that it's the end, and it brings up all of that programming that it tells you it's the end. And, there's one of the programs in particular, it says, you're not going to survive this. And so I had to face a lot of that internal energy. And as I did the work over time, because there's, in a way, nothing else to be done, then what was naturally underneath that? Inspiration. And so I was able to get inspired. The first thing that I did was make appointments with people in my community. I put out a message saying, I would love your help. I've had a crash, knock 'em down kind of experience this summer. I need to come back to life, but I don't know what next is. I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of work. I have a lot of resources, but nothing. I didn't feel like just coming out and throwing spaghetti at the wall didn't feel like an authentic move to me. So I put this message out to my email list, which people can get on, by the way, by doing a King Hero's Journey Archetype quiz at my website in 10 minutes. You find out your archetype. And I had 80 people respond that they wanted to have a conversation with me. So that was really fun, just God saying, yeah, this is a good direction, because you never know. And over the course of these conversations, which I recommend this as a technique, if your people are looking for some tools, that when you get lost in your life and you fall down, that rather than just trying to create in a vacuum and be inside your own thoughts and loop in and what if and this and that, and actually go out and talk to people. Go out and connect and be interested in them. Not so that I can tell them my terrible story. Nobody wants to hear that. And I did tell it on I actually have a new podcast, by the way. It's called Beth of Fresh Air.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yeah. In addition to the King Heroes, it's on the King Hero channels. But I always wanted to be doing a weekly, regular podcast that doesn't depend on being able to find a good guest. And I don't want to just have somebody on because I have a spot. That's not how I do my podcast. I want it to be something like really genuine that I want to share, learn about, or somebody that I really want to vet. And then so I started this Beth of Fresh Air podcast, which has been super fun. People often write me over the years and they say that my podcast is a breath of fresh air. So
Yes.
I don't spread the fear porn. I don't talk about all the wrongs all day. I want to talk about the solutions. I want to see, what can we do collectively to get through and get past and create a life for ourselves. And then, so yeah, this podcast was born. And then all of these conversations were so fruitful because I could give my attention to them. For one, this is a beautiful thing when you are generous and you give your attention to someone and you ask them questions and you're really interested in the answers. And I learned where people were at. And that helped me see what do they need that I could provide. And the main thing that I heard them talking about was that they lacked vision.
Interesting. And I think that's very obvious on a lower level in this world where people do things to get an immediate result. They will compromise themselves and betray themselves so they can, let's say, for example, get into a restaurant or get into a
Right.
plane. And where is the foresight? Where is the world beyond this moment in time? And I think a lot of people don't have a greater vision. We parent for the immediate result without seeing the vision of the child that they are raising into an adult, right? Or that the hunger that we feel without the vision of our health that we desire when we're older or whatever. So I think that's really powerful to help bring that back in. We get out of our comfort zone. Our comfort zone's killing us, and that greater vision far beyond where you are right now.
Exactly. That's maybe not even our lifetime, right? And that's the beauty of people who have young children right now. They're forced to think into the future. Because if it was just for me, I have a nice life. I can more or less, get by without a lot of anyone breathing down my neck or regulating me. Not entirely, not as much as I thought I could, but nobody bothers me. They don't knock on my door. They never, when the injections were in style, no one told me to take one. Zero, like literally.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But when I think about my son's future and his children and all of the children, people who were brave enough to bring children into the world in the last 6 years in particular, hats off to you. I'm working for that.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I still love humanity. It has a lot of problems, but there's nothing more precious than our human incarnation, the level of work that we're capable of doing in this form is not to be taken lightly.
Absolutely.
So that's what I decided to move forward with and create a new project that I'm calling Creator Code.
Okay.
And the word code to me is very important because when I was on what I thought was my deathbed, I downloaded a bunch of code about my life that I felt like I didn't have. It was probably there, but I just, hadn't seen it. And it was, what's my life for? What's this all about? Why am I here? Is it to just, go to a job in an environment I don't like every day and just suffer and sustain? I don't think so. And so this brush with death caused me to download much more about who I am. I'm still decoding it to this day, by the way. So
Oh,
I don't
wow.
want to make, oh yeah, I don't want to make that seem like I got, written instructions in sentences and all of that kind of thing. I was just very sure that I had a purpose. And then it's all in the mystery and to unfold and, participate in life and let that guide and draw me. And what you said about that, they betray themselves for the short term is really profound because there's two archetypes I'm going to cover in this course, in addition to the tools of deprogramming. And it is the child, the alpha, the beginning, and the alchemist, the omega. Did I get that backwards? The alpha and the omega?
Alpha and Omega. I don't think so.
Alpha is
Alpha,
A,
yeah. Alpha's
and
A.
omega is the end. Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the alchemist being the end of the journey, but it's the end of the journey, meaning it is cyclical. It's of a spiral nature. So every time you're at the end, you're actually at the beginning again,
Right.
right? And that's the beauty of it. Now I'm calling it an archetype, this alpha omega, that is inclusive. That's what the Bible says, for better, for worse. I'm not a Christian, but that the alpha and the omega are both, in fact, one, right? We think of them as separate, but it's, to me, a very powerful archetype. And betrayal is the shadow of the child. So we betray ourselves to avoid the hero's journey, right? To avoid doing the hard work, to avoid going on the adventure, to avoid slaying the demons and the dragons, to avoid bringing our own gifts back to the people when we receive them. And so this betrayal, I always flip betrayal. I say, you must be betrayed by the truth. That's the ultimate
Can you unpack
betrayal.
that? Can you unpack that? You must be betrayed by the truth. What do you mean exactly?
Right. Back to even the beginning of the conversation where, if people are brave enough to see that the natural health world that they bought into has been manufactured for their detriment, with that goal, they will be betrayed by that truth. It will cause pain. It will cause change. It will cause disruption in their life, right? That's a fact. But it's the one for a good reason, rather than having someone come in and, ransack your home and turn everything upside down for no reason.
Right.
Being betrayed by the truth is like the sacred betrayal.
Sacred betrayal. That's an interesting term. Okay.
I just said that for the first time.
Good. You should own that one.
I will.
That's good.
I will. And so this is my excitement and my joy now, right? The breakdown that I had with the injuries has now turned into, or I turned it into. It doesn't happen by itself. By doing the inner work, I became inspired to talk with people. That inspired me to see how could I serve right now. And then this whole entire I'm not going to call it a training, just a course. It's a personal journey where people can learn the basic tools of deprogramming, basic emotional mastery and navigation. And these two archetypes, maybe they're one, the alpha and the omega, the child and the alchemist, how to do deep healing, as well as through the archetype of the hero's journey itself, learning our collective nature and how to work within that, kind of like we were already talking about, that it's tempting to go and, work on the collective. Well, it's not like that. The collective's right here.
Yeah.
You got to do the work right here.
Yeah.
And then giving people those skills, because I think I said this, but I'll repeat it, that if enough people had the tools to be able to both navigate and transform their inner life, that could change things for everyone.
100%. Yeah. And that's the thing. We have these lofty ideas of changing the world and fixing out there. Well, we all just need to do that right in here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it starts here. Exactly. And who knows what that's going to inspire you to. Maybe you're going to get out and create something that can benefit many people, or take on projects. And that's the thing also. Another big part of this is seeing the relationship of vision to connection, because there's no true creation in a vacuum. If you just sit alone in your living room, then all of the creations, doesn't matter how profound they would be, are worthless. Right? It's only in the sharing, only in the giving, only in the offering and the connection that creates where it comes alive. And it can take on a kind of organic nature of growth, where so many things in my work I didn't intend to grow, especially connection. This is one of the things that I pride myself when people, and I can't take credit for it, is when people come and do my courses, then they tend to get very strong relationships established in the process with the people that are willing to do the work, that are, they maybe partner with. I'm going to have small pods for this course that's going to come up in January. And they go on. I've got one of my coaching training certification groups from 2022. They still to this day meet every single week since the training's been over for a long time. So there's something that happens that is organic by nature. And I think it is because this is the most frightening and the biggest riskiness, or the biggest risk that you could take, is to do the inner work.
But what are we
Right.
here for otherwise? Like, what's the
Right.
point of it all if you don't? And it's going to get uncomfortable, folks, but the only way around that is through. Like, what is the point otherwise? That's what I don't
So,
understand. People just cling to these beliefs and ideas and programmings, and they're not even true. They're not even real. They're not even, but they hold on for dear life. And I just don't understand it. For me, it's like, what is the point of being here?
yeah.
And I always think of the end and looking back is like, what are you going to regret when it's all done? We're all going to die. We know that. We're going to
Yeah.
die. And so do you want to have this meaningless life to look back on where you didn't even try? Because you're going to regret that in the end, but you're not going to regret the effort that you put into it.
Exactly. Even if it was full of failures, you will not regret that nearly as much as if you didn't do anything. So that's become a cliche for a good reason. And have I told you this story that when I was in India, sitting in front of the white bearded guru on a mountain, and he asked us a question one day. He said, "What are you going to regret on your deathbed?" And so we all sit and we're all quiet and we're contemplating, and it's kind of like heavy energy. And then he answered for us. I can't like hold him up on a pedestal at all, but he said, "That which you regret right now."
Okay.
It's just suppressed, right? We suppress our regrets, but there will come a time where you can't suppress them anymore. And I think, I had the luxury of being on my deathbed and knowing what that was like, and how, the life review and all of the things, you see how you lived and you see all the mistakes that you made. And, that's a very real thing. So in a way, I was very fortunate to get there before it really was the end, because then I have a better chance, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I have a better chance at not laying on my deathbed with a bunch of regrets. And even, I thought maybe it was my time. It was like, everything's kind of heading in the wrong direction here. And I thought, what? Would I feel like I didn't fulfill on my contract, my purpose, however you want to phrase that? I thought, no, you know what? If I was to go now, I'm okay with that. Not to say that erased any fear of dying. I want to emphasize that. This is the most humbling thing, that when you truly, because that's just the idea of dying, right? And the idea is different than the program that roots. the fear of dying. So if somebody, say I'm having that lofty thought that makes me sound so, I don't know, special or something, and then a bus was driving for me, I would jump out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not a death wish.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, that is a hard one to come to terms with. A lot of people think they have no fear of dying, and that unfortunately is the most suppressed program of all. That if people are brave enough, and we live in times that bring it up for us, right? All the uncertainties and there's one podcaster I tune in and out of, and every day it's like, oh, collapse is imminent. The headlines read, collapse is imminent, like this. Oh, in 5 minutes or 2 seconds or stuff like that. And it's just like, oh, I need to go to the garden and watch a weed grow to see that nothing wrong is really going on here. And
Yeah.
yeah, but you can use that.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. You can use it to your advantage so that if things do scare you, then you have some material to deprogram.
Yes. And the thing is, you were talking about, like Lester's saying, and whatever, working on it when things are good, because all that is also going to better prepare you for when the shit does hit the fan and when you really do need to work, because you practiced it and you can use it because you're only prepared for how much you've prepared for. Right? Like you don't really get put to the test until something changes, and you're not sitting on this mountaintop alone and everything is great. So, but that's the thing. It seems to human nature is that you need to be brought to your knees in one way, shape, or form before, something changes, and before you realize that okay, what I've been doing isn't working so far. But this is why I get torn too. It's like, how, because I created a program called Your Conscious Pregnancy and Parenting Guide years ago to help support all aspects of that creation prior to pregnancy, the act of childbirth, the act of conception, raising your child, the parenting part, the schooling, all this stuff, so that we don't mess up our kids and they don't have to heal from their childhood. But then the challenge that we face as we are growing up also create who we are and give us our strengths if we choose to treat them that way. So I always get torn in, like, where's the balance of, okay, let's teach our kids now so they don't have to go through all this pain and suffering to figure out what the hell they're really here for and how it actually works. But then do we take things away from them? And I think there's a balance, probably, because you're never going to make life perfect. Like you said, life will happen. People will die, circumstances will change, whatever. But what about our kids? Like, how do we impart some basic concepts and universal principles for our children? Do they need to have the hardships to learn from? What do you think around that?
I love that subject so much. And it's great that you've done that work. That I made the experiment of not creating unnecessary hardship for my son. Some parents will do that as a matter of principle, that, oh, let him tie his own shoes if he's struggling at the bottom of the stairs, or, just that, a very small example, or, oh, look, he got himself in trouble. He has to figure that out, or something like that. And as long as my son would receive help, I would give help. Because I have the idea, like you said, life is going to make trouble for him. Guaranteed. There will be nobody is in exemption for that. And I don't run after him trying to prevent every little thing either. But where I can be of service and I can relieve some suffering before he's developmentally ready to, foresee every disaster like I can, then I'm going to jump in and be there for him. And so if my son is any example, he has gained, like I said, incredible self-responsibility, the ability to navigate, maturity and development beyond most adults already. And that unfortunately doesn't say much for most adults. He has, right? He has true empathy. He can feel what the other feels. And that's not that normal.
Right.
Or adults have their limit. right? That it's like they'll feel with you to a certain degree, and as soon as and this happens, you'll notice if you fall down, who's around when you're like that? A lot of people can't manage that because they get scared. Oh, what if I was in that situation? I've seen that a lot of different times in my life. And so then, I also entered into zero punishment with him. There was tiny amounts of it here and there, and it was so devastating to me and to him that I thought, like, I'm not going to teach that way. I'm not going to give consequences. And then people talk about natural consequences. Well, okay, if the natural consequences happened, then that's, out of our control. I have to cope with it. But so I never punished. I never took away things from him. I never did anything like that. And did that stop him from being a good moral person? No. Did it stop him from choosing a relationship with someone who's actually stable and doesn't demonstrate any like big issues or red flags or problems like all my childhood boyfriends did? Right? And, so if it's just one experiment, and I can't say this is the truth for everybody, but yeah, life will prepare us. And this here, it's another cliche, but basically, if you are the example of someone who takes on a challenge rather than runs away from every challenge, they learn from that. Mm-hmm. That teaches them how are you? What's your composure? Do you lose it and go into chaos, or do you navigate and find your way? Do you do the inner work to be in greater mastery and control of your reactions and your behavior and everything like that? And yeah, so I think that's the ultimate. But should we help our children? Yes, help your children.
I used to have a problem with it, but when my son played hockey years ago, the parents would have their kids pack their stuff, and then they would forget something. They'd like, oh, they're going to have to learn. They forgot it. Well, I'm not going to go get it for them. But I forget things all the time. And I call my husband or my son. I'm like, oh, can you do me a favor, please? Like, I forgot that I need it now. Right. So I ask for help, and the idea that that's going to teach them a lesson for me I was like, oh, I don't see it that way. I don't. And again, that term developmentally ready is really important as well, because I'm also in my 50s, and I'm not the same person I was as a 15-year-old, right? Or a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or whatever. And I am going to learn on my own time, but certainly these hard lessons when we're 10 or 8, I don't think are going to make me who I am today. So that's
no.
a good point.
All it does, I think, is show them that the world is heartless, and then they get bitter.
Yeah. And we don't want bitter kids, because there's enough ugliness for them to see out there, to learn about out there, that is being revealed faster and faster and more. And I just have a question out of curiosity, because I have a 16-year-old son.
Oh, nice.
So your 18-year-old, has he always been this way? Has he recently more matured? Like, so from 16 to 18, I'm wondering, I find there's some big steps, and then you think, oh boy, well, is he ever going to get this? And then you see this flourishing maturity or changes. And so how has that looked over his lifetime in recent years as well?
Oh yeah, that's definitely it has been a development. And I noticed, now every child is a little bit different, but I noticed that the less I try to engineer anything for him, or there are things I'll tell him to do, like brushing your teeth and taking care of your hygiene. And there are things that I will zero in on, or like basic eating good and all that kind of thing. All that's changed. He still has followed me on this new path. But beyond that, I had to realize that every time I would suggest he do something, it would create the opposite effect. He would not do it because I told him. Right. And so I learned to sit back and, again, be as much the example as I could, really take care of myself and my own life and my own health. And then, so there were times where I'm like, would he ever be able to get a job. I tried to hire him several times because I have a business and it would be nice to have, it all in the family like my parents had with me. And, he was, I'll just use the mean word, he was useless, right? Like I would have to ask him many times, and then he wasn't really listening when I'd give instructions, and then I'd be thinking like, oh, his dad wasn't going to kick him out, so he had no impetus to go and get a job. I thought maybe that won't happen, but I just kept sitting back and sitting back and sitting back, present with him, but not trying to push or pull him in any direction. And that's when he finds his very best. Then he goes into his own self-motivated style of learning. Like, he has been self-taught in so many things. It's ridiculous. With the whole 2020 ban of firearms that continued on, he ended up teaching himself everything there is to know about firearms. And like, he aced his firearms test, and we went through the World War II Museum in New Orleans. He could name everything, every bit of ammunition, every rifle, he knows exactly where it came from. Some guy on Twitter's posted a piece of an AR, and he said, I can't name or figure this out, but I need to find it. So I sent it to my son. He could name it, and the guy could go get his thing. And that's all self-taught. I never would tell him to do that. He became proficient in fixing vehicles. Now he changes my oil, and wouldn't trust even taking it to a shop where they're gonna maybe try to screw me up or something like that. And so anything that he's learned, he's done because he decided. He became an incredibly good guitar player. If you go on my King Hero's journey, the intro and the extra are him playing the guitar. Okay. And
cool.
Yeah. So, and he's showing up for work every single day, and he's doing this job. I'm like, wow, kudos to you. Big surprise. So I would not worry if right now the trajectory of your 16-year-old doesn't look that great, but yeah,
it's a great kid, but the internal motivation, that's one thing. But there's other great things. Don't get me wrong, great things. I'm just curious as the levels, because he's not in school. So, he's not being told by other people to get this done, do this and this. So I was just curious as to how it played out with you. So yeah, right. It's cool, because one thing, a vision I hold is a vision for the future of my son, and also the life that we're all, wanting to provide, that the world that we're living in. Like, let's just quickly talk about Canada quickly. Well, I guess we got to finish up here, but just a couple comments on Canada, because good Lord, this country that, many of us used to be very proud to come home to and to call our home has changed so drastically. And the idea is that talk about the programming that has taken hold in people to allow them to believe that more control is okay, like is good for them, or even that we require it. Like, it's the complete opposite of freedom, what we see our country turning into, where we, it's a country that I think was synonymous at one point with the word of freedom, or the idea of it. Whether it was ever true, that's questionable. But now it's obviously not. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, there's a lot of mourning there. I wonder if the culture of Canada really never did exist, that it was like sort of a persona, that it was a veneer that we held. I remember traveling, and I discovered a lot about Canada getting out of Canada and learning how people saw us, and what this persona that we were projecting, how fake and gay it really was, and that we were the only travelers that put a Canadian. I put our flag on a backpack, that we need to, tell everybody we're Canadian, not American. Right. And that's where, when I was traveling, got past that, the racism that I had against Americans, amazingly enough. And now we love America. They're just so much better. Honestly, you drive across the border and the world gets good. The roads are good. The people are good. The culture seems much more stable than ours is. And, our culture, again, maybe it doesn't exist. I was thinking about this the other night. Like, could there be a campaign of some kind, at least getting people to vision a culture in Canada? What could that look like? If we don't have that, and we never really had that, what would it be like? What values would we want to uphold? What would it actually manifest as? What creations would flourish in a culture that was really Canada? And I mean, honestly, the immigration has taken things to a whole new low. It is, I went to India 8 times. I don't hate Indians, but this whole thing has turned me into a racist.
Well, that's
And
happening everywhere, unfortunately. I had a really good story, that a girl that I know lives here. She's from here. She's contributing here, but she's in the store and somebody's like effing pack, like they're using slurs against somebody they don't even know, assuming she's an immigrant, but it's being controlled that way. It's all being created so that if we fight each other, right? Would you not agree?
100%. Yeah. The biggest casualty is the division of good people from good people.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, we fall for every single divisive psyop. That's what they want us to not have people, and that's something if there's any people out there that watch this from Manitoba or Winnipeg, I'm open to connecting, because this community has fallen to low levels. I mean, I imagine people are still connected out there, but it's not what it was. That whole rah thing in 2020 was a little blip, and people just found the reasons to divide. So then feel free to reach out. I'm open to connecting with more local people and maybe having some kind of local events again, possibly, maybe not. I don't know. Most of my world is out there. Yeah, so I often hashtag "Oh Canada" when you see the evidence of another totally asinine move, which is it's elevating it to call it asinine. It's really by design. It is a communist takeover. My ancestors were dealing with the same communists that we're dealing with today. And, so is there hope for this country? Which I don't know if that's the thing to have hope in, but I have hope in life. And I have hope in good people, and I have hope in the process of transformation. That, again, the theme of everything we've talked about today is you start with yourself, do that inner work, do the really brave, courageous inner work, and see what you can create from there with ease and with joy and acceptance of the hardship that is full of purpose, rather than the hardship that is purposeless.
Good distinction. And that's a beautiful way to end their thoughts, right? That I really appreciate that. And I love that there's hope in good people. And right, is it a country that we put our hope? Because again, there's such distractions. We just had our mayoral vote here in Calgary, right? And people we have all these distractions. Everybody's campaigning and putting up signs, and this is our savior, and this is our savior, and this is the way, and we got to do this, and do we have to do any of that? Because we've been doing that for a long time, and it's only getting worse. So those are really great thoughts to end this interview with Beth. I really appreciate your time today. Guys, check Beth Martens out. Listen to our first interview, episode 26, to learn about her story. It's really powerful, especially when people find themselves in perhaps a place of hopelessness around health or some other severe circumstances, right? There's always a way that you can change perspective, gain new insight, gain some awareness, learn from it, grow from it. And look into the inner work. Go to bethmartens.com. So you have this is a new thing that you're working on. You're launching that in January. Is that what you said? Did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly. In January, I'm going to run a special invite-only version of Creator Code. It'll be a 3-month course, and with weekly classes and support, and again, learning the tools of deprogramming, the particular archetypes of the beginning and the end and the collective, and then also working through how to turn that into action. So it's not enough to just get inspired, but you want to, birth something. You want to really be out there. And so if you'd be interested in that course in the first run, then a good idea would be to go to my website and on that homepage, do a King Hero's Journey archetype quiz. That gets you on my email list, and I'll be making that special invitation to my community only at that point, not putting it out for the public. But I want to run one version of the course and see, how does this actually work? I've done this work for 25 years already, but in this container, this would be the voyage run, so to speak. And so yeah, there would be an opportunity to get in on that very first version if they wanted. There are also other courses that are fully done, the Nurture or Cure, for those that help others and doesn't go well for them, or they really suffer that unnecessarily. I've got the Primal Power course for people who want to deal with their fears and find where true power lies inside themselves. I've got the King Hero's Journey as a course that you can just do module by module to learn all 8 archetypes. And as you mentioned a few times, my book Journey is also available at my website, and probably we'll be doing an audio version of this year.
Oh,
It
nice.
continues to be, yeah, I'm super happy with the reception of this book. People message me and, I just read your book for the 3rd time.
Oh, wow.
Or they show me a copy. I'll have to send you one. They show me a copy and it's all marked up and it's got bookmarks and sticky notes and everything like that. Somebody recently quoted my book in a journal that they created, one of my students that did my coaching certification training. By the way, that my coaching certification training will come up again in 2006, and it is the companion to the Creator Code.
2026.
Did I say 2006? Yeah, 2026. You got it. Yeah, only 20 years off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all good places to start. And then the House of Free Will is there as if you want to get behind the scenes. I do a weekly snippets podcast there from Beth that is the most personal work that I do. I will take bigger risks. I will sing along with myself, and I'm not playing guitar yet. My hands aren't ready for that, but there's I talk a lot about my work. There's workshops. Members get a ton of free workshops with really great presenters and education. The round tables in law, Canadians in particular. Not to say it's irrelevant to people from around the world, but want to debunk all the crap. If you just you like the lies, but you're not attached to them, or you're willing to detach from them, then I'm a good person to hang around for that. You can also find me on Telegram. There's the King Hero's Journey channel and the chat, and then a bunch of private groups where I run for my courses or the House of Free Will.
Wow. Okay. Got a lot going on. Holy cow. Okay, guys. Well, be sure to check Beth Martens out. She is doing good work in this world, and I think it can benefit a lot of people and people that you know. So be sure to check this podcast out on your favorite platform. Obviously you are if you're listening to this right now, but share with your friends and family, subscribe, do all the things, help this grow. This is great information. And this is why I started this podcast, to highlight, because there's so many people deepening into their own work. And I love highlighting the love that people pour into their work and how it's benefiting others. So thank you again, Beth. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me, Sasha. It's been a total pleasure.
Bye, everyone. Until next time.